Hey, it's Don. Today we have a Christmas bolo video for you. I'm in a little different spot today, so the lighting may be a hair off. I do apologize for that, but it was easier to do it this way than moving stuff around. So anyway, today again, bolos on Christmas. We're going to cover a bunch of different things. I go back and forth on videos. Sometimes I'll set up a video and I just won't like the way it looks or sounds, and I'll cut it and move it around. So again, I did that again with this one here. So all Christmas, because I had a lot of questions on this quarter, what's going on and what's going to sell better now than any time. Some of these items that I'm going to show you will sell 100% better this time of year. Some of these won't sell very well outside of season. There's a few items that you probably wouldn't even want to mess with out of season. But anyway, we're going to hop over there now. And as always, I'm going to cut myself out. And we're going to give you some good details, reasoning, and thought behind some of this also. So let's hop over there now. Okay, so with Christmas, this is one thing that people tend to miss. These plates, and this is Royal Copenhagen. I don't mess with much pottery in China, as you know, but there are plates that I show you fairly often. I do mess with plates. Plates do have a large collectible field. Now, this is 1908. I don't expect you to go out and find a 1908, a 1910, 1920. The point of it is, these look no different than a 2000 plate or a 2010 plate. The design, the construction, almost the markings as well, too, are very, very similar. This is the first year, so that's why this one's so important. This is the first one that Royal Copenhagen did in 1908. But again, pay attention to these. I see these in big stacks, and sometimes I'll see people, they'll look through the first 3 or 4, and at the bottom of the stack, all the good ones were, like from the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the earlier ones that are marked. So don't just blow off some stuff like this if you see a couple that look like they're newer. Even the newer ones can go for some money, but this is the kind of thing that I find in big collections, estate sales, just sometimes even stacked up in stacks just with the dishes. If you go to some estate sales now, they have it priced to the T, and it's actually sometimes priced higher than it should be priced. But that's their ploy. They do it that way. They've done it that way for a while. Now you go to another sale, and they'll have them just $1 a plate, not thinking a thing about it. Pottery isn't their thing. So that's one good thing to think about. And that's why I say keep notes on the sales you go to. So if you go to one and they always price their pottery or this item or that item under, you know what to look for first. You hit the items that are underpriced first. Those are where you're going to do, hopefully, more damage and make some more money. Obviously, if there's some undervaluated item in some other category than pottery or whatever the case may be, obviously that's what you want to hit either way. Underpriced items. You got to know which place is underpriced and go back to those routinely to catch them when they put the items out. I got like a route that I'll do to some of the antique malls and stores that I go to, and I know exactly which booth, other than I'll go in and ask, are there any new booths in here? That's another thing I do. You'll get to know people, and they'll know when you come in that, hey, this guy's going to ask that question. It's just typical when you do this for such a long time. They'll see you over and over and over and over and over again. You know who's new at a place and all that kind of stuff. Now, price-wise, I'm not really worried about the price right now. We're just talking about the items. You can see the prices. I haven't blocked anything out. I do block all, or some of the information, I should say, out on YouTube. But on here, I'll just leave it on here. Now, I have a strong affiliation with Nightmare Before Christmas. I met Tim Burton. I know I said this quite often, but Night Before Christmas is one of the hottest Christmas item and Halloween item that you can get. So it's got like a 5-month lifespan minimum. Plus it sells all year round, but they sell higher this time of year. These are like, they could be almost a centerpiece display on something like this. You see the price. I loved the artwork, the animation. You know, it's just a really good concept here in general, these items. Now, of course, these are something that, you can't just get anywhere, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the top-end, most expensive, best figure out on the market there. It doesn't have to be that. Now, these are like numbered editions, out of 500. This is classic collection. These are high-end stuff, but this is something you might see at an auction, an estate sale, a church sale, a garage sale. There's even a chance on similar, not necessarily these classic collection pieces, but some other Disney ones that you can find in a wholesale or even in an RA trip. Now, don't shun away some items just because you don't know them. Look them up. figurines, like we're going to talk a lot about Department 56. Now, figurines and statuary, I do very well. And Christmas time is the best time to sell that because everybody's putting decorations out. So they're going to decorate. Some collect certain figures. Now, my mother-in-law collects Seraphim Angels, and she has for a long time. They're Italian. We used to get them when we worked at Disney for her, so we've gone back that far into collecting and helping people acquire collections, and I know some of these stylish pieces. We used to buy stuff at Disney just to turn around and resell. There was a place called Bargain Basement. I've talked about it before. It was only open to the employees. It was only open for like 2 or 3 hours, one day a week, and it was like some screwball hour. It was under the Magic Kingdom in the tunnel system. You had to take a bus, first park, take a bus, employee bus to the tunnel entrance, then walk through the tunnel to this place. So it was an ordeal that a lot of people just didn't mess with. So I went there all the time. Every week we were there. So just an example of statuary. Now I'm going to have some more Nightmare Before Christmas items because, again, they're hot. Anything that's Nightmare Before Christmas, take a look at very closely. The bigger the pieces, the better the pieces. Pottery pieces, yes. Resin pieces, yes. There was only 2,028 of these made. So it is possible, more of a quantity-wise, that, some of these could show up. Because these were high-end even at some point. Now, at sales, at an auction, let's say, you might see something like this go for $350. You got to know a little about something about it. And you have to have taken a strong look at it to spend that kind of money. You have to make sure there's no breakage or anything like that at all. We're going to save this... well, I'll just let it go off. We're going to save that for later. I don't want to spend some time looking at stuff like that. But anyway, so pay attention. Don't ever buy anything sight unseen or close-ups unseen. Pick it up. Pick it up. I know people ask me questions, would you do this looking at a photo? I literally like to see everything or pick it up. I like to be able to hold it for a large chunk of stuff. It's just the only way to know if it's good or bad. So anyway, again, prices aren't a concern. The items are what we're talking about here today. Now, these are Lampworks Christmas ornaments. This person didn't know what they were. There's corks in them. It's just a piece of blown glass, basically, or blown into a mold, I should say. These are usually two-piece molds, the ones that I have personally held. So there'll be a seam line running down parallel to each other down the sides, the length of the piece. Some of these are done in actual colored glass. Like the blue one would be my guess is actually colored glass. Now the other ones are just like Mercury glass ornaments of the day. The blue one there probably is solid blue glass. The amber one I don't believe, or the one next to it I don't believe. And you can barely see a seam line on that one. Now some of these could actually be just totally hand-blown, freeform, no mold as well. Some of these could also be missing the coloring and just look like a piece of glass and be mixed up in, let's say, like lab equipment or just oddball glass stuff sitting in a bin or something like that. I do see that kind of stuff because you can wash out all the coloring in these if you didn't know that. There's a chemical you can pour into it, and it escapes me. It's acetone, I think, is the one that we've used before. You might have to do it a couple times, but if you want to de-mercury a bulb, it's not a big ordeal. Some people use that as a scam, so I wouldn't recommend, doing it and not listing that this was colored at some point, in my opinion, because it wouldn't be straight. There are some of the vintage ones that are worth more as a clear ornament than as a mercuried one or a painted one on the inside. So just keep that in mind when you look at some of these. But these are a nice example here, to say the least. These are a couple $100 a piece for anyone I have ever seen. Really nice examples. And as you see, it's corks on the end. It looks like a bathtub stopper is the best way to describe it. It almost looks like a piece of lab equipment had it not been these colors. So, and that's why sometimes I see people that miss the clear ones and things like that. It just the way they are. You can find amber colored ones as well, or translucent. I've even seen one or two black glass ones where you hold them up to the light and they're a olive green. Those are what the original bottles were. They were all black glass. I don't remember the thought behind why it was done like that. I'm pretty sure they could have made other styles of glass. I know at one point it wasn't easy to make really clear glass as well, so there is a point that they couldn't do it. But in fact, we got another counter. We're going to leave those here for just a minute. Let's move on to the next one. Now, I've talked about these earlier ones here. I do have the other video, I believe it's up at this point, for the spun cotton batting Christmas ornament where I show you how to make something similar to this, at least the figure on it. Now, this is a good thing here that I wanted to point out. If the average person sees this, they may not think it's Christmas. They may think it's like a Mexican tourist item. And I see that. I'll see people pick these up and just set them back down. And sometimes I get lucky enough to hear people what their conversation is or something along that line and hear that they say it's just some tourist item or junk. Most of these that I've seen are German. You sometimes can see them marked with a little sticker, just a plain white sticker with blue lettering that says Bavaria as well. And that goes back to the 1880s, 90s, and thereabouts. So this is an early one. I don't know if this one technically goes back that far. I would say probably not. Now, with spun cotton, it's basically a yarn. And you can find spun cotton in the yarn aisle in some stores if you want to recreate it. And I've talked about, I will have a spun cotton one in the near future, I guess, for the other channel. But you can mold it and push it into shape, get it wet, and it'll stay in the shape when it dries out. That's why these are made like this. And these are made to go on like feather Christmas trees. They're extremely light for their size because all they are is basically spun cotton. Now, I make these with the reproductions that I do, just FYI, with a wire frame, which I'll show you in that video as well too. But so don't always, look past these Western or all kinds of other items. We're going to show you some other unique ornaments that people will miss. This is a key type of an example here. You can just barely see the string hanging from his back on where it would be hung from a Christmas tree or wire, whatever it may be in this case. This is a typical example. You see spun cotton, 90% of them, 95% of them are going to be for something like this. The hair is literally what the spun cotton is, the horse's mane. That's just pulled out spun cotton. So everything on here except the string and the wire are spun cotton. It looks like a felt hat possibly, or a batting hat too. But anyway, again, price-wise, you can see them yourself here. We're just talking about the items and what to look for. Now, I've talked about these several times. And as you see the color pink, I don't know how many times, dozens and dozens of times, the 50s, even 40s, the pink and the turquoise color in general are the most sought after colors from the 40s and 50s and even into the 60s. So pink anything for Christmas goes well. Now, I don't think this sold at that. I wasn't even honestly worried about the price. Now, some of these have a base that actually rotates. You plug it in and the whole tree rotates. So some of those, I don't even look if this is one of them or not. Now, I don't think it is, but maybe. Fairyland's a well-known manufacturer of these, probably one of the best ones. Again, pink. This is basically a recreation of a feather tree. I don't care if the box is there for the most part. If the tree is solid, I'll have to put it together to take a picture. So just keep that in mind. This one, obviously, it's not a superb picture, but, it's good enough to get the point across. This one's much better, honestly, with the light behind it. They should have done some close-ups so you can see the branches. And I don't know if they put a branch total. Always put the branch total, too. Christmas tree with revolving stand. Yes, attached light that also plays a melody. Yeah, so that light looks like it's included in the tree. Yeah, so anyway, rather interesting either way. The tree may or may not have came with that stand. I don't know. They're not showing enough in this one. Either way, it's a good thing to look for. If you see them set up, I see people will pass them by because they don't want to mess with them. Now, I don't really care messing with something big. I've taken apart Christmas trees and mailed them out. We bought several from Disney, from the bargain basement, and did extremely well. But again, these Christmas trees, I'll take them apart. I don't care if it's big. I'll see people pass them by because of size and not wanting to mess with it. So if you don't mind messing with something, you can always do better than everybody else. It's just the facts. Now, this is Department 56. Now, Hallmark has a line of these as well. Not the buildings per se, but they've got ornaments from Christmas Vacation. And this is Todd and Margot's house. Julia Louise-Dreyfus plays Margot. I know that. She's on Seinfeld as well, too. But these are hot right now. So if you run into these, again, Department 56. Now, these prices will fall at some point, would be my take on it. This is, I think, from this past season. I think this is from 2018 or 2019, but I could be wrong on that. Maybe even older than that. Either way, any of these villages, these village pieces. Now, here's the boss's house. Very good one here. These go great. These are just awesome pieces to get. They're nothing super fancy. You might see them out of the box. You might see them at a garage sale. Any place like that. These things are really hot, so you see the prices on them. I don't have to point out the prices. Now, I talked about Christmas pins just the other day, and I noticed this one here after that video. These do extremely well. And there's a Bon Marche, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. Somebody told me the pronunciation, but unfortunately I don't remember what it was. This is just a good assortment. Meet me at Gorman's. That's one that I've had. There's a lot of good ones in here. As I said, people just collect these early pieces. Now that bookmark on the bottom right there, that's a celluloid bookmark. I've had that same one by A.B. Chase. They're a well-known piano manufacturer. But this is a good assortment here. Toyland, $1,000 on this case here. So again, I'm not kidding when I say that those pins, the Santa Claus pins, go for some good money. Don't pass them up. Don't pass them up when you get them. I wouldn't spend a fortune on them. You know, $5 is fairly safe on the early original as long as the pin sticks out past the button. I don't think you could go wrong at $5 on any of those. Now, I know this may look, you know, like a huge ordeal. These things sink down into a small amount and they can be fit in a box, smaller than the Home Depot boxes for FBA. So, and these are something you can find. Look on Craigslist. I've seen many. I don't mess with these because I just don't like meeting too many people these days on Craigslist anymore. My personal take on that. But, you know, we have done it. You know, there are some things that I do get occasionally that are good purchases from Craigslist. So don't discount stuff like this. Now, they're throwing in free shipping. They had 3 of them. It might have been some wholesale deal. It might have been a discount from last year. It might have been a discount from, say, Halloween from some store that didn't realize these would still sell and play through Christmas. I never discount anything based on size. I look at it from the aspect of profit. If I'm going to make, and again, it might take $200 to ship this possibly. They're still bringing in $800. They may have $200 into it. So, you know, they've got $400 into it and they're raking back after fees around $500. They've sold 3 of these. That's a $1,500 profit for a $600 investment. You know, which isn't bad. I'm just giving you some numbers on what I've seen stuff like these show up for. Now, I'm not saying they're all going to be new. This is something that you would have to have some storage space, too, in some areas. You could buy this after, you know, in February, January, February, when these are on clearance, because they're not going to be used for almost a year, and chances are they would go on clearance in some of these. So you hang on to them for a year, and then you're all set. That's, you know, the take on it. I do buy things in a year in advance in some cases because they will sell better, and the price is so darn cheap on some things. This is something you could sell on Amazon. You may have to get ungated on this. I can't say for sure on this specific here. I didn't even think to look on that. But anyway, it's still an interesting item. I know this person's feedback isn't so great. I don't know how many items they sold. It may be one ding, and they only sold a limited number of items. Who knows? But anyway, the items are still good. So don't discourage this type of item based on the person selling it. No offense to anybody if that happens to be you, because this is a good item in my book. Things happen with feedback too, but the best feedback you can have is what you want. You want top-end feedback. Now, this is a Sebastian miniature lot. They've been around for a while. I don't remember the ages on these. Maybe it says in here. No, they don't have it on here. I don't remember how old these are, but I run across these occasionally. There's different eras. This is a new 87 on this one. This one is signed by somebody, and probably Sebastian himself, I would gather. Now, this is an older piece here. So again, there's 2 different. You can tell the difference on this one. You can see the vintage style label on here. This is like, I think they're chalkware or some kind of cheaper pottery or ceramic, if I'm not mistaken. Could even be resin on this newer one here. But either way, they're very collectible pieces from what I have seen. I've sold a few. They did very well. Just some random pieces of Sebastian miniature don't all go horrendously well. It depends on the version and the age on them also. Some of the scarcer or rare ones, just like anything. Again, figures in general, if you see Christmas figures, now these don't look like anything fancy. Most people would say, hey, just by looking at these and looking how the Victorian Christmas is embedded into the item, that these are just probably cheap figures. Now, this one has Santa on it, so, you know, it would probably be hopefully judged at a higher level than the other one. But people don't hold into account the value on stuff like this. You see the price. And I don't think this is an anomaly because I've seen many Sebastian miniatures, and we've had some that have sold very well. Again, I'm trying to show you things that we've personally had or been in touch with. John Deere, again, I hate to keep bringing these up, but these do very, very well. And they don't look like much. Again, these are something you could see just sitting in a box. It's just a hunk computer. You don't need the little baggie with it. It doesn't need the string. It doesn't look like much, in all honesty. This is pewter. It's not sterling or anything like that. So it's not going to stand out and say anything specific. It doesn't look like much. So you'll run into these at auctions. There'll be a Christmas auction. It'll be all just junk, random ornaments from the 80s, 90s, 2000 era. And this is where these kind of things show up. You get the right one, you got some money, as you can see here. Now, they're not all going to sell for that. $400 or $500, I see many of them going for. Nativity sets. Fritz and Floyd is what the issue is on this one. It's a specific make. Now, most of these I see marked with 2 Fs. These are usually numbered on the bottom. Most of the Fitz and Floyd are made in China, so they're not something spectacular. Most people miss these because they think they are junk based on that. If they're not in a box, I see most people pass these by. Now, the Nativity set is limited, so each one, they only had a certain amount of these made. So that's why this set is worth more than others. Most people, again, they look at the China, they think it's not worth much, and they won't bid up very high on some of these. You get the right set, the right ones, they're worth some money. Just because it says Fitz and Floyd on a box doesn't mean it's worth some money, so you do have to pay attention. This is the best time, obviously, to sell manger sets, nativity sets. This is it. This is when you want to get rid of all those that you have. Get them up now and be done with them, because it's come after Christmas, they're harder to sell for sure, especially these. Somebody will probably use this set. This is about the max that I try to get them up. If they're up past this too much later, you may not get a chance to sell them at top dollar. People buy them out ahead of the holiday because they put them up sometimes the first week in December for some people that are really into Christmas. So just take that into mind when you're looking at stuff. Nativity sets are hot. This is a Christmas building, like a city series, just like Department 56 has for other things also. This is Hershey's. This is from the theme park, the chocolate company, the whole works. And you can see Cocoa in there as well on the sign. They're not all worth a bunch of money, so just look into it. Many people weren't even aware that these existed, but they don't look very fancy. They're not well detailed. They're actually kind of cheap looking in my personal opinion, but they sell, so I can't knock them for that aspect of it. So turn every one of these type over, even if they look cheap. You hopefully can see, you know, that this just doesn't look very well done in my book. It's just not a fanciful piece. There's a village set for almost any company out there now, and a lot of them do carry a value, so just take that into consideration. Pay attention, pick up and turn over everything. Even if it doesn't look like a Christmas building when you're at a sale, you may be surprised at what it says on the bottom. Department 56 for $1 or $2, I usually give them a shot. Goebel, you know, Hummel figures, most any of those I'll look at or give them a shot too. Now, some specific locations, Hotel del Coronado is one right here, that issue Christmas ornaments from specific places. Disney did it at one time also. These are for like guests, and this is the whole set all together, a commemorative set. A lot of company Christmas ornaments can carry a value. Not all of them. We had some from Dana, which is a local company here as well. It's a German company, actually, but we have a big local facility. And my son actually did some stuff with their robotics team. They're one of 2 robotics teams that do competitions here in the city. But anyway, a lot of these company ones can sell for some money. Not all of them, like I said with the Dana example, but a hotel that is in a prestigious area of the country, yes. That is a good plus on these. Now, if these are separate or single, they still would hold some value. I believe they all have some copyright notice that will state Hotel del Coronado. I've only seen 1 or 2 of these before, and I've seen ones from other hotels. Like Disney has some from like the Wilderness Lodge and things like that. So I do pay attention. It goes right back to some of the other collectibles, hotel and stuff that I do talk about also. This is just another fine example of those. Now, again, this is Department 56 and Nightmare Before Christmas. Again, I love it. I got to play with the actual buildings, including this one right here on the bottom left. That bottom left one where Jack is standing next to, they had that one. They had the Evil Doctor's laboratory as well, too. I loved the sets. It's just the coolest thing I probably have ever seen miniature-wise in my life. It was just incredible, the details and how realistic it looked, even close up. Leaning over sets. And again, they had the full-fledged sets where the animators actually had to crawl into and move around stuff. This is neat to me. Any of these Department 56 Nightmare Before Christmas can be good. Now, we found some at the mall the other day, and I've shown you a few hauls of Department 56 items, as well as some Nightmare Before Christmas. There's a shop in the mall called Lunchbox, and occasionally you can run across stuff like this there, discounted, occasionally. There are places in the mall you can find Department 56. Here, I don't know what your mall's like, and there are wholesale ways, and you can sometimes find these on Craigslist. Obviously, auctions, estate sales, garage sales, church sales, and all of these I'm showing you. So anyway, just a nice collection of them. Now, this is a little over what I think you would probably be able to outsource individual pieces, but it would take you forever to get these. Sometimes you can mark stuff up, obviously, because you have the entire set together. So just keep that in the thought. So if they're individually, maybe they only sell for $700, you might want to put them up for like $900, like on something like this. Now there's free shipping, so you got to expect it's probably going to be about $60, probably close to $70 on this lot here. They're fairly heavy, these Department 56 ones here. Let's move on. Now this says brownies, and they're calling these Palmer Cox. Now, if you know Palmer Cox and the brownies, these aren't brownies, because Palmer Cox brownies were like little fairies, full-fledged bodies. Now these have like a walnut or something for the body, the torso, and then sticks for the arms. So these aren't Palmer Cox. They do state that these came from a Palmer Cox collection. Well, who knows? Even if they're called brownies, these aren't based on, well, maybe they're based on Palmer Cox, but they're not Palmer Cox characters, because his were not some nut-based character. They were actually clothed fairies or little gnomes or something. So either way, though, these are really nice. And again, back to Department 56. These date back, 30, 40 years, some of these items. So, any of these oddball things. You might just run into one of these. I don't think anybody's going to run into a whole set of these. But either way, Department 56 is one of those brands that I always look for because I do make some money on it. I've showed some out before, too. Now, something else that people pass up, and I do see a lot of people miss stuff like this. Now, this comes in what looks like a book. It's a custom box for this pipe. This is a Christmas pipe, 6 geese a-laying. And I believe it has a sterling pipe stem wrap on it, and then a plug, as you can see, or a snuffer. I'm not really sure what. Let's see if we can't zoom in a little better on that. That topper right there. I believe that is a topper for it, if I'm not mistaken. These all are very nice, and I'll see them, outside of a case, and they might be $20, $25, but any of these Christmas pipes from the 12 Days of Christmas go for some horrendously insane amounts of money. I'm just really surprised that people miss these types of things sometimes. Pipes are on my list. I don't find very many. Estate sales are probably the best place to find pipes in general, any pipes, or second best is some of the local live antique auctions. Now, there's some other places like going out of business sales from some other establishments that may have some high-end pipes that you might get them at, say, 80% off, but that's few and far between for those. Usually estate sales for pipes in general. Now, don't pass up stuff like this just because you think it's not Christmas oriented. That's the big mistake people make. They'll not be thinking that anything's Christmas. Again, back to the cowboy, the Western figure in the beginning. Don't discourage looking at things because you don't think they're Christmas. If they're about the right size of a Christmas ornament, but they are some odd character, I would definitely look at it. Pipes, definitely look at. It's all collectibles in general, so they don't have to be old even. These could be brand new. This is only from 1998. Unsmoked would be best, but even if this was used, I would still get a few $100 for it, for sure. Even if it was used without the box, I'd still get some good money for it. Now, again, don't be misled by what something looks like. Pick it up.